Welcome to This Ordinary Life, the podcast where we delve deep into the beauty and complexity of the human experience. Not through stories of celebrities and public figures, but through the voices of everyday people. I'm your host, Yamna Nigm, and I believe that while we often hear from those in the spotlight, it is often our peers, our friends, our neighbors, or even strangers who hold the stories that resonate with us the most. Each episode is a new story, one about struggle, resilience, love, or the relentless pursuit of happiness. These are the narratives that speak to the core of who we are. So, if you're here to listen, to learn, to empathize, or even to feel a little less alone, welcome. This space is for you. It's a platform where every voice matters. So, if you or someone you know has a story that's worth sharing, please reach out. I'd love to host you and hear from you. Today, it is my honor to introduce you our next guest, someone with a story as unique as it is universal. Her experiences, like all of ours, is what gives sweetness to this ordinary life. Rabia, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you
How's
so much.
everything?
It's good.
How are you feeling?
I feel very good. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to your beautiful home,
Of
to your
course.
podcast, your
Of
baby. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. It's honestly an honor to have you here. So before we start, I do want the listeners to know about your story a little bit. You know, you grew up to Turkish parents in a Swedish household, and you're also a scientist at Stanford, mashallah,
Yeah.
amazing. But you've done all of that while navigating multiple culture bridges and dealing with HSP, which is something that's really interesting I want to dive into today. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So to
Mm.
start off, I want you to tell me, like, let's start from the beginning. What's your earliest memory of you realizing that you are a Turkish woman that is raised in a Swedish household or in a Swedish environment where did the two worlds clash?
Mm. So, like when you say the earliest memory, the first thing that comes to mind is, like I think the first time I realized I was different from like white kids growing up.
Okay.
Because as a kid, you don't really think about you being. Of course, I was speaking another language.
Yeah.
Because my parents were very like. They thought it was important for me to learn,
Yeah.
and my siblings. It was in school that I remember we didn't have like I think it was first or second grade, and we hadn't studied any history or anything. But my teacher told me like, oh, there was this man in Germany. His name was Hitler.
Oh.
And yeah, I had no idea. Like I was like,
Okay.
okay, I'm here to.
How old were you?
Very like maybe 8, very young.
Okay.
Like no one. I don't know. Did you know about?
No.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But she was like, okay, if he was alive today, and then he pointed at me and some other kids with like immigrant backgrounds. It's like you and you and you wouldn't be here today. So I was like,
Stop.
wait, what does she mean? And I realized, oh, I look different, I guess.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So that was like probably the earliest.
Oh my God.
I know.
Why would you say that to you at 8? That's insane.
I don't know. Yeah, I hope she's not a teacher today.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a different way of teaching.
yeah,
Definitely.
Well,
Okay.
I will. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So,
I learned about Hitler quite early on.
right. So in your household, you were more Turkish because I know both of you, are you first generation or second generation?
So my mom moved there when she was 3. So
Okay.
I'm second.
Second,
Yeah.
technically. Okay. So do you feel like there were more Turkish values in the household that were being taught, or was it more like Swedish home values? Or
Uh,
was there a difference even?
There is a obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, my parents are very. Um, they found like obviously like they were teaching us Islam, so everything was around Islam, and then some Turkish culture too. They didn't want us to me and my brothers to forget
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they wanted us to be aware of our backgrounds and identities.
Okay.
Mm.
So what values did you learn that you feel like clashed with the environment around you in Sweden?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is family, like the importance of family. I'm not sure how much you know about Sweden, but it's known to be quite like one of the loneliest
Yeah, you were telling me that. That's
places.
interesting.
Like it's also like one of the top like happiest places on earth, but also like people are unfortunately very lonely. And so I think
How does that work? How is it both the loneliest place but also the happiest place?
I think the happiness comes from like all the rights that you have, you know, free healthcare. Like it's a very comfortable life, right? Everything is free. You don't have to think about healthcare or education or.
How's everything free?
We pay a lot of taxes.
That's what it is. Okay. Okay.
I kind of like that.
Okay.
I like that system.
Okay. So, could you walk me through a day of like, what's a day in your childhood like? You know, as a Muslim woman, first of all, did you feel your Muslim identity? And how early on did you feel your Muslim identity? And was that different than your Swedish and Turkish identity? Because I know you said your parents kind of connected the Turkish and the Muslim together. So when did you recognize, okay, I'm a Muslim and I'm a little bit, you know, different than what's
I wouldn't like you would understand. Like I wouldn't eat everything that they would serve in school, right? I wouldn't eat pork, and my parents were very like they thought like us eating halal was important. So I wouldn't even eat like chicken or anything like that.
Really? Because it's not the biha.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So are there a lot of Muslims in Sweden?
There are. Yeah,
really?
Especially now, yeah.
It's a big Muslim community.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
Where in Sweden did you grow up?
In Stockholm, the capital.
Oh, okay.
If anyone wants to, visit, go to Stockholm. There's no other city. Obviously, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
But Stockholm is, I would say, the most fun.
Yeah. In what way?
More people, more things to do. Like a lot of history, a lot of green.
Okay. Do you at all align with your Turkish identity?
I do.
In what way?
But I mean, if it would ask me like how I would identify, I would say like the first thing I would say like I'm a Swedish Muslim. But also obviously like if I didn't have the Turkish background, I wouldn't be Muslim, and I love the Turkish culture. Like it's like you and I we talked about this like being a third culture kid or growing up in between different cultures. Like it's very difficult to say what you identify as. And for me, I guess I identify with all my backgrounds. Like
you never lived in Turkey?
Never, but I
visit often.
Yes, during the summers.
That's so interesting to me. But so where do you, if your mom herself is more Swedish than Turkish, and you are obviously very Swedish, how do you hold on to that Turkish identity?
I think it's like obviously like us having relatives there, going to visit. My grandparents live there. I have cousins there. I also have a lot of like relatives in Sweden, but I still have a connection. Like we have my parents have our summer house there, so we'd go like in the summers to spend time. So it's always been there.
Okay.
But can you relate to that? Like being, like you also grew up here in the U.S. Your background is Egyptian.
It's different for me because I'm more Egyptian than I am American. I always say this because a big chunk of my childhood I was raised in Egypt.
That's true.
And I went to school in Egypt as well.
Yeah.
So, and my mom is very Egyptian. My parents are immigrants. I myself am an immigrant. So I can't really relate to being, more American than Egyptian. If you ask me, I'm Masriya, 100%. Like that's how I feel. Like there's things about me that, obviously, because I came here at a really young age, I adapted the way of life here. But a lot of my values, a lot of my everything that I am, everything that my parents instilled in me, because my mom also was very Egyptian. It's just I'm an Egyptian girl living in America, So that's why it's really interesting to me, because your mom is also Swedish. She moved there when she was 3. Yeah. So that's interesting to me and I love that, and I appreciate that you still hold on to your Turkish side, because that's really that's the core of who you are, And especially you said that, just the incident that you talk about with your teacher, of very early on, you were made aware that you're different. Yeah. Which is really unfortunate. And it was shocking to me when you told me that, racism and discrimination is huge in Sweden, because I thought that was an American thing.
Really?
Yeah, I did not think, I was shocked when you told me that. Like, I don't know if you remember, I was like, what?
Yeah,
you face discrimination? Like, that's shocking to me. I don't know why. It's just shocking to me.
I don't know. Like I've lived here for 3 years, right? I've never once had like anyone comment on my hijab or my background, I don't know. First time in my life that I feel like I actually not belong, but I kind of feel like no one, I don't feel different. I feel like everyone else.
When did you wear the hijab?
Very young. So that's also played into the, at 12.
Okay.
Very young, yeah.
And what was that experience like in Sweden?
My mom wore the hijab. And I was inspired by my friend Kautar that started wearing it at the same age. And so I started wearing it. And yeah, I would say like I was bullied for a bit. But alhamdulillah, like, I had a lot of support from home.
So your parents were okay with you wearing it at such a young age?
They were like, they were asking me if I was sure. They were like, maybe you should wait to university. Like, you're so young.
Yeah.
But I was like, but you taught me about, you should start wearing it. Like, when you get, become a young woman, you should start wearing. And like, why is Kautar wearing it? Why is she allowed to and not me?
Where was Kautar from?
Algeria.
Okay. No, this is the same with me. My mom did not want me to wear it at all. Yes. I wore it in 6th grade and she was having a meltdown. She's like, no, you're so young. Don't wear it. Wait until you get married. Like, she's like, no, don't. Like, she was very against it, which is so funny because I think that's the opposite of what people think. People think our parents are the ones that force us into it. In fact, it's our parents that don't want us to wear it.
Exactly.
And they want, like, they of course we have the freedom to do what we want, which is another misconception. So it's so interesting to hear that you had a similar experience.
But I think like they're like why they told us not to wear it at that young age is probably because they wanted to protect us. They're aware of Islamophobia.
Yeah, of course.
And what that would do to a child, like feeling that it's different.
Yeah. Okay. So having faced this discrimination growing up, how did that affect your sense of identity? Right, you're already struggling with not knowing if you're Turkish or Swedish, and then add on top of that the hijab and being a Muslim, being a visibly Muslim woman. How did that affect your sense of identity and belonging during your teenage years, which is obviously like very formative years?
So I think I had a very, very, very supportive mother and dad too. They would always tell me, like, when I felt like I didn't belong, I would go home and they would make me, like, it always made me feel very loved. And whatever I do, they would support me in it. I think that's it. And it would always remind us, like, this is all temporary. Like, nothing is forever. Like, this is an investment. Like, you can take it off if you want to or not,
Yeah.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
But remember why you do it. And it's for the long run. It's an investment in yourself and your future. So they would always remind me of that. Yeah.
Did you ever want to take it off?
I did. I did, actually, in high school, I did.
You took it off for how long?
Not long. Maybe like 1 or 2 weeks.
And what did that feel like?
It felt so weird. Like the way people talk to you changed.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it kind of like brings, tell me if you agree. People talk to you in a more respectful way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the hijab, one of the reasons I at least can convince myself of the hijab, because ultimately we do it because Allah told us to do it. It's not too many questions, but I think one of the wisdom behind women wearing the hijab is it forces people to see you.
Exactly.
See your personality, see your mind, what you have to offer other than your outwards appearance. And that by nature forces you to respect someone, right?
Exactly.
You're not going to approach me the same. Not to say, by the way, that women who don't wear the hijab should not be respected. Everyone should be respected regardless.
Of course.
But I think having the hijab is like an extra step to you, like
extra
step
protection.
Yeah, step to me correctly type of like, you're not going to step to me. I expect you to step to me with respect because this is a reminder to me and it's a reminder to you that I'm different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 100%. I completely agree.
You can talk to me.
Yeah.
The way you want. Think before you talk.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Like, I don't know.
Hopefully, exactly.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So you took it off for 2 weeks. What did your parents say about that?
I could tell they were sad, but they were like, they tried not to show it. They were like, it's your decision. You wanted to wear it to begin with, and if you want to take it off, But are you sure? Like, think about it before it's a big step. You know, wearing it is a big step. Taking it off is a big step.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. And then I put it on, and my dad, I remember he was like, what do you want? I'm gonna buy you a gift, whatever you want.
Aww.
Yeah, he was so happy. He was trying not to show it that he was sad, you know, when I took it off, but then I could tell he was happy when I put it back on.
Yeah. And you took it off because of peer pressure, or what did you feel when you were taking it off? Like
I think it's this thing about belonging. I don't know. Like, especially in that age, like when you're a young adult, you just want to belong.
You want to belong, yeah.
But I don't think people, like, you have to figure out what it means to you to belong somewhere. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be how you look or...
Yeah. But of course, as a teenager, you're not thinking about
it.
The teenagers, like, it's the most, like, the years where live above the influence. You know, they had all these commercials growing up, but it's like you want to be part of the cool clique, and the cool clique is not wearing hijab.
But I'm so humbled. Like, I'm so happy. Imagine, like, there was no social media when I was growing up. Imagine being in that age today.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I
can't imagine.
I always say this. I'm very glad that I wore it at a young age, because I don't know if I would have worn it now.
Probably not. I probably
honestly like, I think again, everybody has their own journey, and everybody gets to that decision. It's a big life decision, and there's no judgment when you do it, if you do it or not. But if you are thinking of doing it, I 100% encourage to do it at a younger age, because it's much easier. It's much easier, like, at least from my experience. And as the older you get, the more expectations, the more, there's just a lot more, right? So moving on a little bit to education. Mashallah, you have your PhD. You're a scientist at Stanford. We love an educated queen. So talk to me about why you pursued your PhD, and what was the academic journey like? Let's just start there.
I didn't plan for it. It just happened. Like, I studied chemical engineering because chemistry was my favorite subject in school. And then I did material science, and then I realized I really like research. And that's, you know, when it was a professor looking for a PhD student that I was working with during my master's. So I just continued. It wasn't that I planned for it, just, you know.
Did you know what you wanted to be? Or, like, was there...
I still don't know what I want to be. No.
Really? So you just studied things that you love, and then you ended up here?
Alhamdulillah, like, I've been so lucky to actually always do what I find very interesting and fun. And I just followed with that, and alhamdulillah, you know, got me here to the US.
Wow, interesting. How much of your drive to excel academically, I know you said you didn't plan your PhD, right? It just happened, right? So how much of that drive to continue, because it takes drive to continue to your master's and continue to your PhD, especially when you don't have to. So how much of that drive was kind of to prove yourself in that culture that you grew up in? You know,
I think
you wanted to stand
out. Related to that, yeah. I think it's very related.
Okay.
Like, being from an immigrant background, I think I always felt like I have to work harder in order to get, you know, have the same opportunities as, you know, people with...
There's a saying here that goes, you have to work twice as hard to have half of what they have.
Yeah, so I think that's a result of it. Like, me just continuing. Yeah, and Allah made it easy for me, just, alhamdulillah, like, I don't feel like I did too much work. It's just, you know.
So is higher education the norm in Sweden?
I would say, yeah, people are very educated. Yeah, it is norm. But maybe not PhD level, but people are in average, like, very highly educated. Okay,
so you got your PhD in what again? Organic chemistry? No.
Applied physics.
Applied physics.
I did a little switch.
Okay, applied physics. And what do you do now?
So now I work at Stanford, at SLAC, which is an accelerator center. So it's a department of Stanford, but it is funded by the Department of Energy. So it's a federal lab, and I do optics.
Optics, okay. What is that? Educate me, please.
So I don't know, like, have you seen, like, ever going on the 280, like a long building? It's like the accelerator itself is 2 miles long. Okay. So they accelerate electrons, which produces X-rays. And people from everywhere, all around the world, come to use those X-rays for different kind of experiments.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like,
Interesting.
it is very interesting. There are also interesting things happening here in California.
So what's your part in it? What does your specific role
It's a
entail?
tiny part. So I work on the optics, so which means that you're basically guiding the X-ray beam that comes out from that long accelerator. You need optics to maybe focus the beam or split the beam or shape the beam. And yeah, so that's what I'm working on. So it's very lab heavy. I'm in the lab a lot, yeah.
That sounds fun.
It
From
is
the
fun.
outside. I don't know how fun
It
it
is
would sound
fun.
like for me to be in there.
I know it can be frustrating, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And we're like
It's
always,
really important work as well. That's really important work.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm trying to. That's what motivates me, right? Like this will, inshallah, like help other people too.
So you feel like you have a small part in a bigger picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So wait, so how did we come to Stanford from Sweden? How did we move here? How did? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's Allah's plan. I wasn't like didn't have any plans of leaving Sweden.
Okay.
I worked on optics in my PhD too, and the community is very small. Everyone knows everyone, and I met my advisor, my manager that I'm working with now. She approached me when I was doing my PhD. So I worked with her for a bit just before graduating in 2019, before COVID hit.
Your manager now?
Yes.
She approached you while getting your PhD
in Sweden. So I met her in 2019.
Oh, okay.
Worked with her for a few months, and then she said, okay, when you're finishing up, maybe like let me know if you want to come back. And I finished. It was after COVID. I was like, I need a new adventure in my life, so let's try California again.
Oh my gosh.
And that was 3 years ago. Like now I've done that. I've been here for a few years. I've learned a lot.
There's more opportunities here, I'm assuming, career-wise.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course.
There are pros and cons with everything.
Of course.
Right? With everywhere
Yeah.
you go. So you just have to make up your mind, I guess. So that's why I'm very happy at work, but I also miss my family. Alhamdulillah, I have.
Yeah. Sometimes the price you pay for freedom is loneliness.
No, I agree.
It's like there's pros and cons to everything. You get the life that you want. You get the career that you want. You get more opportunities, but that comes at a price. It's much like our parents even migrating to this native land to begin with. Whether it's my parents in America or your parents in Sweden, that came at a price, right? That also came giving your family a better life, but that also came at the price of leaving their parents back home, leaving their family back home. It's very similar. It's a very similar concept. I can definitely see why all of this contributes to you feeling like a third culture kid.
Yeah.
You don't
not
like,
belonging.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Where am I? Because these questions also get to you. Like when something is asked enough times, you're gonna start questioning yourself. Like, am I actually not Swedish? Like, I know I was born here. I know my mom is from here, but am I actually not Swedish? Am I actually not Turkish? And like that really does get to you, especially as a young adult. Maybe now like you have more conviction in your own identity, but as a young adult that really gets to your head. And add on top of that being Muslim and being a visibly Muslim woman, like that is very difficult.
It is. No, I just think like I realize like the older I get, that this feeling of belonging somewhere, it does not, it has nothing to do with where you are. It's about the people that you are with.
100%.
So I think, yeah, because you can belong everywhere. It's just like something that you have to be comfortable with, and like if you surround yourself with the right people, you can be anywhere, and that will feel like home. It doesn't have to be a specific place just because your background is from there or you were born there. I feel very much at home here in the Bay Area, and it's only been 3 years. So
yeah, I love that. We have these conversations all the time. Like, where is home? Honestly, I also feel like I don't belong anywhere because I feel like I'm too Egyptian for America. I'm too American for Egypt. Like even when I go to Egypt, I'm not.
You feel weird.
You feel like you don't belong here, but then also sometimes I feel like I don't belong here. I go to New York where my parents are at, and I'm like, no, this is not the place for me. I come here, but I'm like, wait, I miss my family, and it's like this constant like I feel like you're being pulled in so many different directions, but it's like where am I gonna feel like I'm here? I've arrived at where I'm supposed to be at. And I 100% think that does not happen until you are you fulfilled certain things within yourself, right? Because home is this is home.
Yeah.
This is the only place you have to live, you know? So it's like until you have arrived at a certain check marks within yourself. Additionally, it's what you just mentioned, like being surrounded by people who make you feel like this is home, because that's ultimately what it is. That's ultimately what home is. Home just feels familiar and peaceful and comfortable and safe.
Where you can relax.
Who makes these boundaries are set by the people that you allow into your life, you know? So,
and also you said these like all different things, all different identities
Yeah.
that you have.
yeah.
Like I think it's just about like accepting them, and instead of being like questioning like what am I, who
Yeah.
am I Swedish, Turkish,
Yeah.
this,
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
just but it's pretty cool. Like it's very cool to be like Egyptian, American, from New York, right? You are all those things,
Yeah.
all those like different backgrounds, and it's very unique.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like 100% one of those things, that's fine. You can just take whatever you want from all different pieces and be your unique self and be like,
Yeah. No, 100%. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. I think that's spot on. Like I think you have to first be at peace with
yeah.
with that puzzle piece, which is like I am not fully one place,
Exactly.
because that's just and by the way, this is a very universal feeling. A lot of people that move countries, or a lot of kids, a lot of like us, where we're born here but our parents are one thing, but we've moved to another place, there's this exists. This is a third culture kid is a very real thing, and I think there's a lot of like ambiguity, is that the word, around it, and it's like, who am I don't know if I'm exactly what you said. I don't know if I'm from Sweden, or I'm Swedish, or I'm Turkish, or I'm now American, because you live here, and inshallah you're going to continue to live here, and the more you live here, the more American you're going to get. And it's like, until you make peace with that I'm not fully one thing. I am 5 different things at once. And like you said, I'll pull out my New Yorker when she needs to come out.
Yeah.
I'll pull
I've
out
seen
my
that,
Egyptian
girl.
when she
I've
needs to
seen
come
that,
out. You know, and that until that piece is complete. By the way, that piece needs to be complete first before the other pieces, which I think are like your community, your friends, whatever.
Yes.
This identity, this self acceptance needs to first
Yeah.
be complete, and then everything else is going to naturally fall into place, because once you accept yourself, the universe accepts you as well, and everything around you just falls into place, right? I do want to touch a little bit on you being an HSP. Do you want to first clarify what that is?
So I also recently learned, and I told you about it, right? I was like, Yimna, I think you're an HSP or HSPB.
Yes, let's not put the B in here, but we're HSP.
So it stands for highly sensitive person.
Okay.
So growing up, I've always like, I don't know, like you tell me, because we talked about this, about your experiences, how you feel at times. And I told you, like, there is, I mean, this is not a, what's it called? It's not a condition.
No,
Like,
it's not a condition. It's just a character.
Like, yeah, it's like a character.
Yeah.
And if you, if you identify with it, then okay,
Sure.
then there are tools for you to like, So it's about like so when I was growing up, I was always like questioning if I was like an introvert or an extrovert. Sometimes I felt very extroverted and sometimes very introverted. So I couldn't really, it was just weird to me, because then sometimes when I would be in gatherings, I would just sit in my corner and not talk to anyone. And sometimes I would be very like
outgoing.
Yes.
Yeah, outspoken. Yeah.
And also like having like I used to like also like growing up, I used to feel a lot when I was younger too. Feel so much
deeply
about everything.
Yeah.
People would tell me like things that they were going through, and I would make their pain my pain. I would like internalize their like being extreme, like maybe too empathetic. So that's what a highly sensitive person is, and very like extremely empathetic person that feels a lot, like reads into people's emotions and like reads the room. And also like this is can be a very good thing, because you know, being an empath, I think that's, we need more. But it can also be tiring, so you have to learn how to, you know, not to internalize other people's feelings, and not to let emotions, you know, control you. That you have to control your emotions.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I'm yeah, I relate to every single thing you just said. Not understanding. Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? I naturally come off as an extrovert. You ever did the DISC assessment?
Yes, I was always an
What are you?
extrovert.
But what's your letters for
Oh, I
DISC?
don't remember. It changes too because I do it like I think I've done it twice. The first time I did, I was more on the introvert side, and then I moved here to California. I did it again, and then I was more on the extrovert. I don't remember. I don't remember the letters. I'm not sorry.
I think mine was DC. DC was D was a dominant, but C was what's C? I forget what C is. I'll figure it out and write it somewhere on the screen. But so one thing I knew, one thing when I did it, I did it at this place I used to volunteer at, right? And they were shocked that my I, which is usually responsible for being very social, very extroverted, was very low. I had very low I. They're like, that's so unlike you. You're so outgoing. You're so, and I'm like, but the real Yumna is very introverted. You have to, if you're gonna live in a society, you have to be very outgoing. Especially when you grow up in Brooklyn, New York, there's no room for you to be a wallflower. You'll be eaten alive. You know,
you're forcing yourself
so
to go out of your
right. So also that assessment shows you your adapted attributes and your natural. My I was so low. My adapted, the I was so high because I had to adapt to being so outgoing because I've always had this thought in my head. What you just said. Am I introverted? Am I extroverted? I don't know who I am.
I'm shy. Like are you also very shy?
Yeah, like sometimes like you feel like your social battery runs out often. That's part of being an HSP. Yeah. Okay, so tell me more how did this. So HSP stands for highly sensitive person. And I had no idea this existed until she brought it up to me. I think I was just like expressing some type of frustration. You were like, girl, you're HSP. And I was like, ooh.
Because it helps you.
Yeah,
like, I don't know what it is.
It
like,
does.
Not to put yourself in a bracket, but you kind of like, if you're aware of these things, you know how to handle them.
Yes.
And it's actually 20% of the population is
I believe it. Probably
HSP.
More.
Yeah, I don't know. That's, an estimate. Yeah. Like now when we talked about like HSP, like do you see this in other people too? Like people in your surrounding? Like when you talk to your friends?
I'm not as savvy as you are with like realizing like you recognize right away I was HSP. I don't know enough about it yet for me to pick it up in other people. So that the answer is no to that question, but I don't know enough about it. I don't know. I actually need to look more into it. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. Like, do you think do you sometimes use it as a hanger to like, if something is not going right, oh, it's because I'm an HSP?
I think like for me, it's not that I'm like, not like a hanger.
Yeah.
It's more like I recognize it. Like, and I feel like, okay, so this is happening right now. I feel very tired because of like all these whatever interactions
different simulations around you.
I need a break.
Yeah.
And I spend like the whole weekend at home, just like recovering. And then it's a new weekend, I recharge and I'm good to go. But I can't, like, I need to take a break from like socializing or like, just be kind to yourself. It's very important to take breaks, especially for me. And I think that's related to HSP. Like I get emotionally drained when it's too much. Yeah.
I wish we had someone here who was not HSP so we can ask if this is everyone's experience.
Yeah, if people get like,
because that's my experience. So to me, I thought that was the norm. Like I felt like, oh yeah, you socialize and then you get tired and you ghost for a week, because that's me. But I thought that was the norm. Is that not the norm? Is not how everyone is?
And we have a friend. No, it's not. We have a friend who is always at all events, very social, and I cannot see that person getting tired from socializing. That person gets like energized, the more people they meet,
Yeah.
So I don't think everyone is like that.
Someone told me that before. My battery gets charged when I'm around people.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
No, it's
Mine
the other way.
Drained.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine gets drained quickly.
It depends who though.
It depends.
So one thing that I know about myself, I can get charged. It has to be with the right person or persons. And I cannot do like surface level relationship. Like I need to have deep, meaningful, depth. And I think that's why you and I connect so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because we are like, we're both
We
looking for
love
that.
these
We love them.
conversations.
Always talking about deep stuff.
Yes. It's also because you're a Scorpio, love.
Yeah, we're both
Scorpios are very
Scorpios.
deep. We're both Scorpios. We're deep. Hence this podcast. So, we love to ask questions and get to the bottom of things.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've changed over the years?
Yes.
Drastically?
Drastically? Not drastically. I think it's like step by step. But it's changed, definitely.
What do we need to know about your past to understand who you are now?
Oh. This is interesting. This is deep.
You want depth?
Past to get to know yourself now. Wait, what do you mean?
Okay, so
Give examples.
sure. So, you said that you have changed, right? You, as we all do, right? And I can't even imagine. I'm sure you are so different. Even the 3 years you lived here, I can only imagine in what ways that has changed you. And if you were to go back and live in Sweden, people would notice a change, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So don't just limit it to growing up in Sweden or an identity. As a friend, what do I need to know about your past for me to better understand who you are today? Were there any pivotal moments in your past that shaped who Rabia is today? Were there any moments where you felt like, okay, a change needed to happen, and as a result, you are who you are today?
We just talked about the HSP
Yeah.
topic. So I think like I had to learn to okay, it's good to be an empath, but in order for me to like be my best self, I have to put boundaries with other people's feelings. That's something I've really struggle with, because I am like, I used to be like someone that always wanted everyone to be comfortable, always wanted to be, I don't think it comes with a different, like being a big sister, right? Being someone that took care of like younger siblings, always like catering to other people's needs. It happened that I would maybe like forget about myself. I think that the more I learn about myself, the more, I grew up, I've learned to prioritize and put boundaries, maybe.
You'll know you're healing when your boundaries are stronger than your empathy.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're such an empath, an HSP or not, just you're a person who feels deeply for others, that's what it is.
Because
you feel deeply for others.
You get
and
affected.
You consume. You allow that to consume you.
Why do I do that? Why did I used to do it? Like, why did other people's problems become mine? Like, I can be there for you, like support you the best I can, but I cannot, take on that pain. Like, it doesn't work like that. So that's something I had to learn. That's one of the things, I guess. There's so many things that you learn. I don't know.
Of course. I want to move a little bit to self-discovery, actually.
Ooh. Work in progress.
Stop me when it hurts. Okay. When do you like you the most?
I like myself the best when I have the best relationship with Allah. 100%. That's when I feel the best. When I'm the most confident. When I'm the happiest. When I'm just like peaceful. That's the best. That's the peak, Yeah.
And when you're not that.
Yeah, because it's up and down, right? Like all relationships, it goes up and down. That I know what it feels like. So I try to remind myself to get there.
Okay. What about you is most misunderstood?
People usually, like, I've heard this a few times. People think I am very like, I don't know, like you tell me, like the first time we met, people think I'm very like standoffish. Like, And maybe I've heard that they think I'm a bit like cold, a bit snobby. But then I always feel like once we get to know, you're so warm. But I think that also has to do with like, it's just me. I'm connecting everything to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am like, when I'm in a room with new people, I observe a lot. I'm not the kind of person that will like, we also talked about this once. You're like, why weren't you talking at that gathering? This is not like I do actively. I usually observe to kind of like read the room first. And when I do, I think people just think like, oh no, she's just bored. Like she doesn't want to be here. She doesn't like the conversation. No, it's not that. I'm just trying to like be comfortable so I can,
Okay. No, I feel that
like
I
open up.
definitely did notice that with you actually.
No,
That
you
you're
asked
very
me a few
quiet.
times.
Yeah.
And if you're like, why were you so quiet? Why didn't you say anything?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't see any point.
Yeah.
I don't feel like
Okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So you just said like maybe it's the European Union. I agree. So actually, and you said people think that about me being from New York. I actually like feel like when I I love New York City. I love the people. I think that's because you can relate to that. That's more like what you're used to. While Californians are like so happy all the time and so so talkative. Like when I moved here in the beginning, I thought it was so weird. Why would people on the street want to talk to me? Like, why are you commenting on what I'm wearing?
Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah.
what? It's so weird.
Yeah. What advice do you have for someone in a similar situation?
I think like when I look back, obviously this is so cliche. No. Like everything's gonna work out. No, it's like for me, it's always been like, do whatever is within the frames of halal. It will work out. Like trust Allah's plan. Just follow. Don't plan too much. You plan and Allah plans, and that's the ultimate plan we're following. And everything usually works out well. Just try to live accordingly. And follow Islam.
Okay. I think one point that I do want to clarify is that Rabia and I are actually really close friends.
Yeah,
I don't just admire her for who she is as a person. I also admire her for who she is as a friend, and that's why I wanted to have her on this podcast. Honestly, it was an honor to have you. Thank you. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.